Isn't that something?
Love that. It does not get old.
And we do it live. We do it live every Thursday for you guys. Um, so we got a little bit of an update for everybody tonight. And it's this is really important. I thank I first I want to thank you guys so much. Everyone that has shown up, everyone that comes in here every Thursday. Lady Mist, Lovely Sherry, P. Lie, Psychodork 9, Chris Persia. Chris Persia is always here. Everybody that shows up in the evenings and hangs out with us on Thursday. It is very much appreciated. June Wong, what's up? How are you doing?
Hey, bud.
Lady Mist, Guardian of the Void. If she's out there in the
She's always out
void
there.
listening. Nina Dega came up with this crazy idea to do, and what is it, like 3-4 years ago?
It was about 9 months after you started, I think.
Yeah,
Maybe a year. So it's about 3 years.
So we came up with this idea to do the Thursday night show, and we try and do it every chance we get, and we want to update you a little bit. And I just I love doing this show with Adega, and I love having you guys here. And we were just gonna do this. We were gonna do. I think it wasn't even like conspiracy theories or aliens. I think we were just doing.
No, we started off with history.
History.
And then we did the Greek gods and all of that.
The Greek gods and the Battle of Thermopylae and all that.
Yep.
And eventually we did like a spooky show. And you know what? We were like, that's really cool. Let's keep doing stuff like that. And, it kind of shifted and became this like spooky ghost stories and horror stories and mysteries and aliens and all kinds of stuff like that.
Whatever fun stuff crosses their desk.
Yes. And Adega's got some info for you, some updates, but he's got
basically he's covering for me. I'm not gonna be as reliable as some of the people know with my book stuff, but I don't like talking about too much of my personal life. Some regards I like pointing the finger at myself and say, hey, look at me, because I've got 3 things that I showed Loki the day that I want to cover that prove, once again, I have not been lying to you, and there's scientific proof that what I've been saying is true. But some of you, probably most of you, know already that I've been battling cancer for almost 14 years now. Unheard of. Been doing a good job of it, but when I first got diagnosed, it's IgA. For any of you want to look up the blood stuff, you could figure out what's going on. The IgA is the marker in the blood. It's part of the immune system. And normal levels, when they diagnosed me, mine was, it depends on the scale. It's either 4,000 or 4.0 or what have you, is considered you've got it. And been monitoring it, been fighting it. And last time I had it checked, it was over 11, meaning I'm not doing so good. And I've had a lot of other symptoms. I'm having serious memory issues. I'm just having problems here. And some days the pains are just nuts, just absolutely nuts. And I don't want you guys to feel sorry for me or anything. I want you guys to be encouraged to know that there are better ways to do things than what the medical profession tells you, because I am above and beyond what was expected. And when I give you healthcare advice, you might want to trust it, because I've proven myself. When all this virus stuff started and I told everybody about it, guess who was proven right, contrary to everything the media and all the doctors and all the professionals were telling you? I was right. So I stick in a group of scientists and physicians who pay attention to facts, not hype. So anyway, long story short, because of that, I passed this by Loki. before coming on, and he supports people in ways you don't know. So for me, it's he's been a conscious for me, and like with my books, getting rid of the editors and doing things. But when it comes to this health thing, usually I'm the one who tells everybody what to do with their health. But sometimes there's battles where my ego gets in the way. And so for the 7 kinds of mischief, we may not be every week anymore. If there's times when there's big gaps, just know I'm thinking of you guys, but I have my own battles that I'll be taking care of. And yeah, I haven't been able to do the research in certain projects that I wanted to do like I had been. I'm drastically trying to finish the 3 books that I promised. And then there's other things that I'm trying to get organized and stuff here around the house for my son to take over certain things. But just know I'm not doing it because it's something I want to do, but it's something that it's my body's telling me, you know what, it's you got to let people know. And I'm not looking for sympathy. Again, I'm not looking for anything other than just letting you guys know that I'm not flaking out on Loki. We talked about this, and he's supportive. He's been supportive since I knew him. He dragged me up here on the show one day to talk about books, and then a few years ago, oh yeah, who wants to hear a expose on Adega, and then ran that poll and had me on camera within 20 minutes, so I'm just, you guys are good friends. Loki is the best of friends. He's family. He'll tell you that. I treat him like he's a real brother. So no, I'll do my best to keep doing things, but like today, I don't have anything prepared, to be honest with you. We've been doing this for 3 years, and just show how my memory works, I had forgotten until a few minutes ago. So I put the keys in the car away. I don't drive anymore. I have to have someone watch me when I cook, which I may make some cooking videos for you so you can put them on your channel. But there's little things that are getting to be a little too much without help. So just letting you know that's the way it's going to be. So if we're not here on a Thursday night, I just need a little extra time. I don't, again, you don't need to send me any notes. Don't expect anything of it, because I have a lot of pride in me when it comes to those type of things. So this is difficult. I try not to have pride, but when it comes to this type of stuff, I have way too much. And this is the way of God trying to humble me. So there you have it. And speaking of me having too much pride, I sent Loki 3 articles the other day. And I said, see, told you so. Yep, look, proven right again. And it was last time we were here when I had mentioned that it was when we were talking about how the Earth, you need to prepare for the magnetic reversal, those type of things. Well, lo and behold, there's an article that shows, and I've talked about it before when I've talked about giants and some prehistorical things, that prove that, again, I was right, that the dating system of the carbon dating and the isotope datings are screwed up. And if the magnetic pole shifts, our dating is completely off. So you look at some things and you will see where they say, well, the Paleozoic, or the different eras in history existed 20 million years ago. Guess what? They have no idea, because it's completely screwed up. And one thing, some of you have been, if you've been following the same people that I've been following, super logical. because they tell you there was never horses or this or that or the other on the Americas, and yet we've proven that they are. But they have. I remember at Disney, and this shows how screwed up Disney is. And you went on Spaceship Earth, and you would see what they have as cavemen hunting a woolly mammoth in a snowstorm. Well, guess what? Woolly mammoth never lived in snowed areas because they wouldn't be able to eat. They're elephants. Guess how much elephants eat? They have to be in a place where there's a lot of plant life. So yeah, the earth did flip. Other people are pulling that. And the way they date things, do not trust them. They're probably wrong by a factor of 10 or more. There was another one.
I just got that one pulled up. I just got that article. Yes, so I just got that article about the carbon dating. I was like, okay, I'm trying to get it to open. It won't open. It won't share in the Twitter side to like save it and pull it up. But this is the article he's talking about, guys. It's the radiocarbon dates.
Yeah, there's others. That's just one. There has been the second one was the dark matter one, where I keep telling everybody there's no dark energy, there's no dark matter. What they're trying to tell you is a bunch of bunk, and they hide the true evidence. And the other article that is there is another one that shows, guess what? Maybe there isn't dark matter. And they're starting to, with the new images and information that they're getting from new existing satellites, the old probes, different stuff they're finding out, all this cosmic dust, all the various different changes. And this one was an invisible galaxy. You couldn't see it, but then they eventually were able to detect it, that, hey, wait, there's mass there, meaning their calculations for mass that were so absent, saying, well, there must be dark matter. It's not dark matter. It just, we haven't seen it. So that's all. Yeah, there's Papa Cotton, the madman himself.
He finally got a message in. No, I'm not kidding. Adega, 6 months. 6 months he's been trying to get a message on here.
Really?
He hasn't been able to. I've checked backstage. I've checked to make sure he wasn't blocked. And how did we fix it? I gave him a wrench and it fixed it. He sent me pictures.
Awesome.
I'm trying to talk in the chat. And I'm like, nothing's coming up on my board. Nothing's coming up on YouTube. Nothing's coming up backstage. I cannot see you. So the fact that we can see him is a little bit of a miracle tonight. So welcome back, Papa Cotton.
Papa Cotton's awesome. Wookiee supremacy from Once Upon a Time. But yeah, there's the dark matter one, and it's... They put it in Hollywood and all these movies and try and make you believe that type of stuff. And lo and behold, nope. And then the last one is, and this one will go along for people who are religious, because for the longest time they said the universe started in a big bang until they started finding stars that existed long before, when there was a possibility of a big bang. And now they're finding out, well, some of these areas we thought were super old or super young. In other words, we still have no idea. So you people who are religious, guess what? They have nothing that can prove you wrong. There's nothing that can prove you right. Oh, they can't prove you wrong. It's information. And you make of it what you do with it. Yeah, Titan's moon's filled with methane, and they're not fossil fuels. They're just fuels made from carbon put under specific pressures and stresses and heat and various different things.
That's how our solar system was created, was stresses and heat and various chemicals and being basically squashed and expanded. I mean, that's kind of how everything came together anyway.
Right. Plus, they're finding newly formed oil deposits. These are not ancient. So it's cyclical. It replenishes itself on Earth. So it just, you know what? In all of my research and all of the things I've studied, I tell you what, some of you won't believe me, some of you will, but there is a creator that made this universe and keeps it in check. And it's fun to watch how these scientists run chasing their tails to fit a narrative, to prove themselves right, and eventually get proven wrong over and over again. And then you have people like Stephen Hawking, who was recently discovered that he was bought off to help pay for the narrative and say string theory and dark matter and all these other things, and black holes in the center of universes or galaxies in various different spots. And it's all proven that, guess what? We don't know yet. But the things that we do know should be a little inspirational to make sure that you have your emergency kits, your food prep, your freedom seeds, for those of you who know what those are. All the good little things to make sure you live safe and happy and can experience life to the best and to its fullest. So anyway, it's been a good week for me in that regard. I love it when the science proves me right. Like I was just before we came on earlier today, and this is what reminded me, I was watching something on giants and Carnegie, Smithsonian, various different ones where they were finding all these different giants everywhere that we haven't heard about. And yet the evidence is all there that guess what? Those old biblical texts show that there were giants, and yet they, as much as they tried to hide it, they can't. They were around. So yeah, this is the one with the dating of galaxies. They used to say, well, you could tell by, and granted, it comes out of China, so you take it with a great deal of skepticism. But even still, their math is pretty sound.
Papa Cotton says, government said aliens are real. What's not to trust?
Exactly. No, if I die and you guys are still here, I will let Loki explain some things that I know about that, but it won't be until I'm gone. But rest assured, yeah, I kind of know some things about that, but I won't mention any of it while I'm still around. You guys will get a kick out of it too. So anyway,
I'm not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens.
that's my wife's theory. She wants to join them so she could help with the probing. Hey, Snow. All right, so that's what I have for you. Sorry to put heavy weight on at the beginning, but also thanks for indulging me in my arrogance in my scientific knowledge with
Not
being
at
proven
all.
right. Oh, I love being right. I love being right.
No, and you should point it out when you are right.
Well, I didn't like being right when it came to all this vaccine and COVID stuff because I knew exactly what it was going to do. And we've got people dead because of humans, not because of disease. We got millions dead because of humans. And they're evil of wanting money over humanity. Yeah, that I didn't want to be right about, but I was, along with a whole bunch of other people that were kept silent, forced into silence involuntarily. No, there's not going to be a book of my death. That would be fun to do, but no, I'm not doing that. I'm just letting Loki know. It's a lot of personal stuff that it sounds too unreal, but there's enough. If you wanted to research it, you find out, oh yeah, that's not BS. That's true. So we'll save that for another time. But there you go.
And before, just as an update, I'm going to add what Adega said too when he started. Before I get to chapter 2 of Rose of Candors, I wanted to do this show with Adega on Thursday. It has been us doing this show. I think we've had one or two people on in over 3 years. We have
I want to bring
occasionally
Vinny back too. Yeah, and Chris.
had someone on, but this is our show. Um, I'm not being mean or anything when I say that if Dega's not well enough to do the show, we aren't going to do a show. That's not, oh, we'll get your butt in here or anything like that. That is, it's no big deal. If you can't do it, we'll do it next week. And if we can't do it next week, we'll wait till the week after that. We will do the show together, or we'll put it off until he feels like it. If he doesn't feel like it, he doesn't feel like it. There's no one to blame. There's no bad feelings. There's no anything like that. Okay, this is not in any way, shape, or form like, well, you got to come in here and do the show, or we're just not going to do the show, or anything like that. No, I want to do the show with him. If I can't do the show with him, we'll wait until we can. Period. No matter how long that takes. Hell, if that takes till we're in the afterlife and we're doing a show up in the afterlife, so be it. On a Thursday at 7 p.m. Tune in your afterlife YouTube channel to 7 Kinds of Mischief with Loki and Adega, because if that's what it takes, that's what we'll do. So, June Wong with $5 super chat, Australian super chat. Quick Adega, download your neural net consciousness into an AI machine matrix.
Heck no.
Please no, it'll end up being like Skynet. That definitely, we don't want that.
Actually, I would do good things. I'd go through and I'd dump all the FBI and CIA files on the net, all of them. I can care less what it would do. I'd dump everything. Actually, I'd turn it over to Papa Cotton. He would know what to do with it.
That's an easy way to do a bad show, Papa Cotton says. It'll be me and Adega doing the show, or we'll just put it off until we can do it. That's as simple as that. So
I appreciate it.
All right, so we were on chapter 2, and to give you guys a little recap, so far we've got kind of like a villager and a spoiled little rich brat in this little swampy, out of the way town in the middle of nowhere. The villager, who is only slightly related to this family of rich pricks that live out in the middle of nowhere, has now been taking care of the last remaining heir of this great fortune. So, and it's kind of a weird situation. She's a brat and she likes to slap people and have her way. And her Comtessa isn't gonna let that continue. It was then there that the Comtessa and her people came to the keep. This will be an ugly part of my confession, but I must write it all. I still don't know who the Comtessa was, or what she was, which is perhaps the better question. I cannot even write down her full name, for when she was announced to us, her and her whole riotous throng of followers and courtesans and parasites, it was much too long and grand to remember. They came in the night and knocked boldly on the castle door. From the stairs, all I could see were their horses beyond count, and firelight flickering on their jewels and doublets and feathers. A motley and fearful crew. I did not like them. What kind of people travel uncloaked in autumn with their horses steaming from cold, without a red nose or ague among them? Who rides through the swamp in the dark on a moonless night? But the whole family, despite being roused from their beds, were enchanted by such extravagance. blinded by how richly they dressed for travelers, as though they had no fear of bandit or violence. I took less note of the lustrousness of their cloaks than I did of how youthful they all looked. Not a gray beard in the company. How strangely alike they were in their beauty, for even the least of them was handsome, and the greatest of them was the Comtessa. The Comtessa threw all her lovely followers into the shade. She was tall for a woman, strapping tall, with dead black hair. I would soon learn fell straight to her ankles if she unbraided it. Black hair with no lights in it, and brown skin like silk. I'd never seen a complexion so perfect except in my lady's face. Certainly, I'd never seen anyone, not even my mistress, grit for travel in silk and velvet and lace, all dyed so deep a red they were nearly purple, as though such rich stuffs could be discarded without a thought. She spoke with a musical accent I was too ignorant to guess at. All the retinue called her Comtessa, and some foreign title in their own tongue, and I know not if she came east of the Tomé or further on from Kazakhstan, or from the regions of Tagans, or royal beauty from the steppes, or if she emerged out of the barbaric north. She was always vague. My mistress never cared for either history or geography. All I know is that I had never seen a rival for my mistress's beauty, and that I was fearful in the moment of how my mistress might panic at being so matched. The Comtesse's retinue were traveling through Candaris on pilgrimage. She said, though I never believed it, she did not seem the type to throw coins to monks and pray at shrines. She came to ask permission of the house to rest there. Though her eyes lingered on my mistress when she said it, the priests and family began to posture, to bleat about room and board, but my mistress came forward fearlessly. I regretted her looking so exceptionally fine that night in soft blue, with her pale hair bound high on her lovely head, but she looked irresistible. I had done it with my own hands. Have you heard of me? My mistress demanded coldly of the Comtesse. The Comtesse took my mistress' hand in hers, the picture of sophistication. She had a huge jewel gleaming on one finger, a ruby the size of a pigeon's egg. I heard there was a girl here of uncommon beauty, she said. Now I know I never heard of you at all. To call you beautiful is to contemplate the poverty of language as we know it. I know of no word for you in any language fit for your face. And she kissed my mistress on the hand and both cheeks in that elegant way of Chaldean. My mistress's face changed. I had feared she would despite this beautiful stranger. Now I could see she was drinking in the vision of her, the satins, the silks, the expensive dyes, the perfection of form, as though all these things were wine. Her mouth softened. I had never seen her look so lovely. I think you speak well and truly, Comtesse, she said, my incorrigible mistress. Comtesse threw her shapely head back and laughed. To have met a creature so comprehendingly of her charms, she said, is almost as good as the sight of your face. Ha! To false modesty, to the milk and water misses of this place. They had no blood in their veins, but I see you do. Give me succor, my lady. Give me beds for my people, and let me rest here at the shrine, henceforth unknown, for you are the greatest miracle of my pilgrimage so far. She needn't have laid it on so thick, for my lady wouldn't have had the faintest clue of how to spell or figure succor. But my mistress blushed until her dark eyes glowed. She immediately played at oh my God, Chatelaine and demanded rooms for all the company, bossed the servants, and cried for the horses to be fed and watered. She would have fed the travelers too, though the gods only knew on what, but the Countessa said they had fed enough and could hunt for game on the morrow. The priest breathed a devout sigh of relief. I did my mistress's bidding, set off on the excited orders she set me to make these people comfortable. Never liking it for a moment, the company smiled too much, never showing their teeth, and walked too softly. But my mistress, excited as a child, was full of their charms, their health and beauty, their silks and figuring velvets, their fashions. She was full of the ruby as big as a pigeon's egg. And for one indulgent moment, I saw in her an excitable child as a feast, gloating over the rich clothes. But then she said, "But the Comtessa, that Comtessa is the best of them all. I never saw a woman so beautiful or so beautifully dressed. You didn't see her eyes. She had eyes like carnelian. I've never seen such eyes. And when she kissed me, she smelled like perfume. She should have smelled like horse if she'd covered as much ground as she was hinting," I said. But my mistress just smiled bewitchingly, mockingly. "You are too everyday, you old nanny goat. You're too coarse to understand. She is some kind of princess." Then she told me to make sure I had something fine for her to wear the next day. Though she couldn't make up her mind what, I sat at stitching at her palest lavender silk, which I always thought made her look like a sunrise. But she fretted and jeered at it come morning. Those people made her even more dissatisfied than had her want from the start. She suddenly despised pale colors. The company loved rich dark hues, deep emeralds and topazes and rubies as an especial favorite. She wouldn't be seen in gowns she had adored as little as a fortnight before. I dressed her hair 3 times before she would settle, and then she stormed around her tower room, foaming with impatience. For the whole company slept late and made no appearance at table or stable. It was late afternoon before the Contessa appeared, dressed like a hunter herself, in subtle black leather and a black bodice embroidered all over with jet beads. My mistress, in the deepest pink she owned, looked like a bud rose trembling next to a wave of dark water. She showed her all over the castle, the pitiful ruins, the woods, and weed blown kitchen gardens, the fine chapel, and the Comtesse smiled at everything, a trifle superstitiously, and refused to go inside the chapel. When you've seen one backwater Condorian chapel, you've seen them all. I remember her saying, "Remember," because I expected my mistress call her to rise and for her to lose her temper with the creature. But my mistress tossed her head and said merely, "It's a wretched place. I shall show you better," as though she hadn't gloated to me many a time before that was one of the oldest chapels in Canada. All those early times she was with the Comtessa, I shadowed them, as a maid ought to, saying nothing and holding my tongue. The Comtessa noticed me about as much as she would a tree rustling, which suited my purposes. When I tried to put my lady's furs and cloaks on, I was violently rebuffed. My mistress did not want to ruin the line of her dress or hide the exquisite calm of her neck or the ivory stretch of her bust. I could hardly tell her that both would be goose pimpled into oblivion if she carried on much longer in the cold. To my disgust, the Comtesse was the one who took the fur from my hands and wrapped it around my mistress's shoulder. "Hide that beautiful throat," she murmured. "I'm envious of the light that touches it." And my mistress blushed again and smirked to hide her embarrassment. "As though there were any light in this miserable swamp," she cried out. It was the first time I heard her dissatisfied with the home she prized so dearly. "I'm envious of the shadows of Candorus that nestle on your skin, then," said the Comtesse. "Ugh!" And her hand lingered in the sables around my mistress's shoulders. Later, I said, I thought she would have plenty to envy in that case. As surely as the swamp was one of the darkest places in the whole continent. My mistress did not laugh or call me that prosaic nanny goat, but told me sharply to hold my tongue. How merry those wretches made themselves in the house. The Comtesse, merriest of them all, For she was a creature of many colors and changing moods, languishing and philosophical one moment, laughing like a maiden the next. Her courtiers worshipped her. My mistress, the baby among them in her youth and ignorance, copied their habits shamelessly. It hurt me to see her listening eagerly to the Comtesse arguing some learned point about the poets of Luke Ghislaine or wars fought ages past in the Shadow Isles, when to her poet of Luke Ghislaine and the wars of Scovos were all one. She knew nothing. I was the one who read her books, and she declared that squinting over Bellum would make her eyes cross-set. But if a Comtesse knew it, then it was knowledge worth having. The Comtesse says, and the Comtesse remarked, and the Comtesse wanted me to know, haunted all my days like a ghoul. Mornings were the only time we had rest for them and their festivities. They slept, which they claimed was the fashion, sometimes until nearly sundown. Then they would hunt and bring back deer and squab and hare from the forest. I knew them to play ugly, coarse games, for all they were supposedly to find stock, tossing corpses at one another, feigning to bite on dead creatures and laughing, or taking the raw blood from the kill, which we all found disreputable and foreign and superstitious. How stupid and foolish we seem. Reading back what I have written, sometimes the Comtesse went with them, and then my mistress would go too, sitting side saddle like a lady, but that's how the Comtesse rode. Then their whole band would file the run downhill halls with feasting and dancing and singing. The Comtesse would announce my mistress, the lady of the house, and sit her on a chair, becked in the house, or becked in the Comtesse's own velvets. As the night wore on, my mistress would dance herself into exhaustion. She would have danced all night if I had let her. But I remained steadfast, the specter at the feast. I dare say I'm not up to being immodest when I say that I drew my share of ribald comments and flirting jests from the Comtesse's people, for no doubt they would have made them toward any young person who wasn't in the moment dandling her baby at her knee. For I was not a raving beauty at that time. My mistress was in a bloom so complete, so blissful, that to see her go from room to room was to see summer walking. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a careworn, bitter little hag. For woe and worry was a canker to my heart, and moreover to any good looks I might ever have claimed, which did not make my lady more likely to take me seriously. That was the first time I saw any hint of the fabled wealth of the big house. My mistress lavished gifts on the Comtesse that looked like the ransom of emperors. When the Comtesse, laughing, finally thrust that grotesque ruby into my lady's trembling finger, my mistress presented her in turn with a luminous green stone like foxfire that was half as big again as the ruby. Even the Comtesse could not help but admire the flawless treasure, but my lady called it a trifle in a minute and gloated over that hideous ring in private. I sought relief in the fact that it was far too big for her little finger to wear. My lady's family had gone from awe at these interlopers to fear and despite. The flow of their riches outward to these people had not helped. The servants likewise were caught betwixt loathing and terror, and so were the crofters. At first they thought nothing of it except that theirs might be a copper or two to spare for men who held the fine horses or ran errands. They were superstitious in the extreme of such beauty and wealth, such dancing and wine. It took only one murmur that they were a curse on the big house for most of the crofters to shudder at the sight of their perfect faces. I say most, for some of the younger and more foolish in the village had their heads turned. Knowing what I know now, I should have paid more mind to the stories that were being whispered of girls and boys who hadn't been seen after some late night, who were maybe in trouble, running and hiding from an angry sweetheart, but still not turning up after days, weeks, or who had got drunk and fallen in a fen, but I had my own difficulties. The Comtessa was paying too many attentions to my mistress. How could she not? I admit her this, grudgingly, that the Comtessa was more or less indifferent to the wealth my lady was hunting up from dusty corners and secret caches, but she could never have been indifferent to my lady's face. My mistress wore her most beautiful gowns, and more daringly so, every day, turned so incandescent and a compliment from the Contessa that it hurt me to look at her, drove me to distraction, not being content with the dressing of her hair or her jewels, seized by misery and tantrums by what now appeared to her a poor woman's portion of dresses and out of fashion cuts. It seemed to me as though the Comtessa was amused by her to start, now begun paying her attentions to which, had she been a man, the whole family might have objected. If only she was a foreigner and a wealthy noblewoman who might play as she pleased. Play she would, with the locks of my mistress's hair, with the lace at the end of my mistress's sleeve, with the flowers my hands tucked in my mistress's belt. Finally, that high-bred interloper turned to myself, and when her eyes were upon me, I knew I was lost. They were brown as a brook, but with liquid red light inside, like the oil blotted up from a river. How your chaperone looks at us, she began to say at my presence. Your Jenny does not approve of me. How ridiculous. She approves what I approve, my lady would say swiftly. Never mind her. She won't disturb us, and I need her by my side, which I loved. I loved. The Comtessa would give a helpless shrug and smile her languid, lazy smile at me and say, no matter. The Dunian is right. I might love myself in your eyes, my darling friend, without that icy stare reminding me that I, the fool handy Comtessa, dare too much. My mistress would laugh, but I knew that I was being told to keep my nose out of it. I was terribly scared of the Comtessa for all her laughing, insinuating, elegant ways. She would look at my mistress with the calculating glance of a cat with a very plump mouse. How could my mistress not understand that the Comtessa often made fun of her ignorance or figured my mistress as the butt of a joke? Except, of course, that she did it so charmingly and stroked her thumb up and down my lady's lovely wrist that she didn't notice. Then came the day I had hoped and prayed for. The Comtessa said they had rested enough and would leave. They had tarried nearly a fortnight with us and wished to get through the mountain pass before the weather became too inclement to cross. My mistress would hear nothing of it. She declared the mountain pass already inhospitable and insisted that the Comtessa and her people should stay until the fall. The Comtessa simply smiled, declared that she would hold a party to cheer my lady. My foolish mistress thought she had carried the point. I imagine now that this was the common way of the Comtesse and her scourge, to squat in one place for as long as they dared, then to leave before too many questions could be asked. I thanked the heavens above that they were leaving, but almost misliked the stubborn cast to my mistress's face. She fairly cried with vexation over dressing for that party. She was just a girl after all. I did not defend her, but I want to make it clear before I outline what came later. Recall that she was the merest, silliest, most obsessed child under heaven. Recall that these were the worst sins before the night. In the end, she wore white, the simplest shift of it in purest fine weight cotton. Virginal and girlish, except that she made me damp it, so that she might as well have been wearing nothing. I very nearly told her in the room no. She was excited to the point of frenzy, laughing at nothing. So beautiful and so wild of mind that it frightened me. I argued that she hated white. She said that nothing would bring her so much attention in that room of black velvets and silk. And it was true. but I told her she was demeaning herself. I may have told her that she looked no better than she should be, but in sharper language, and she shocked me further by putting her arms around my neck and kissing me and saying, "Let your mistress pass, nanny goat, and bleat at her no longer." Such sweet music that I do not remember anything except that I let her go. The party was raucous, riotous, so that I went to the other servants' quarters and told them to lock their doors and not answer them for anyone, especially if they were young and good looking. The family had already retired with the priest. Nobody came for me. My lady retired to her chambers only an hour before dawn. I will never forget the sight of her. She was trembling, her dress was torn, and her hair was in disarray, and she was ashen, so gray faced and childlike that I put her to bed immediately, like a baby. When I undressed her gown from her, I found that it had been torn not on a stray nail, but by what seemed like human hands. I found one ripe edge squattered with what I thought was drying red wine. Poor Daisy, I told her, forgiving her everything in that moment. Poor little Daisy, who had battered you so. And I mixed her a posis and made her drink it. She said so much that I hardly remember any of it, but I do remember that she said, "Oh, Nan, oh, Nan." She said I should be a queen. She is right. I wish to be a queen. She showed me so many things. I wouldn't say what those things were. Though God's help me, I have an idea of them now. In the morning, they were all gone, everyone to a man, and my mistress had gone with them. I raised an alarm, and the whole of the keep was in an uproar. We were all in such distress that we hardly noticed that a few of the servants were gone too. The hall was festooned with leavings, rubbish, stale wine, refuse. Half of us were cleaning and the other half mad, trying to find out which way they had gone. Their horses barely seemed to have left prints. A thick fog rose over the swamps. The old trick of bride theft seemed to have finally been played on the family in return for all its old crimes, and played on the most beautiful and infuriating girl in all of Candace. Although the bride in this case had no doubt gone willingly. I tried to suggest otherwise, not even believing myself, and was roundly mocked for it. The priest prayed for my mistress's soul. We all went out with lanterns, trying to find any trace of her. I was raging in her tower when they brought her home. Her only, and with no sign ever found of the Comtesse or her people. Barefoot in her white dress, confused but unhurt, except for a shallow knife slit at the side of her throat. She could not say if anyone had attacked her. I put her to bed and refused to let the priest bleed her more. I thought that it was an ugly end to a dreadful chapter in her lives, hardly dreaming what repercussions it would have later. And that is the end of chapter 2, and that's where we're going to end tonight.
All right.
I think you can kind of figure out where this is going.
Yep.
And Boosh called it. Yes. This is okay. So this is from the Herodic Library. This is an actual story from the Herodic Library. This is canon, and it connects to something you do in Diablo 2. Yes, this is where that story is from, and it's canon. It's not something that somebody just wrote. It's not fan fiction. It's not anything like that. So, and there are more.
Now we know.
Now we know. And it's because I said Luke Ghislaine. So I was waiting for someone to get that. I was waiting for someone to be like, Luke Ghislaine, Candaris. I know those places. Yes, it's from Diablo. So.
I don't remember them. But I only played Diablo 2 a little bit.
east. Always to the east. Yes, Marius. You should. You should play it. Love it. It's absolutely badass. Two's the best.
The remake or the old one?
Get the Resurrection. Resurrection is exactly like the old one.
Okay.
It's not a remake. All they did was put better graphics and CG cutscenes over the original game.
Okay.
So,
I think I played 20 minutes into it with a necro. Enough to where I could have like 3 or 4 skeletons going around.
okay. So, one of the coolest things that you can do in 2, it's called Army of the Dead. And Eris has played Necromancers in 3 and Necromancer in 4. And she walked in while I was playing a Necromancer and Resurrected, and the entire screen is filled with nothing but skeleton warriors, skeleton mages, a giant metal what's the damn it, giant metal golem, and about 30 something monsters that I resurrected, and are fighting on my side. So in total, it was like I had almost 100 companions running around with me killing things. And she says, I've never seen anything like that. I said, you can't do that in the other 2 games. You can't do that in 3 or 4. You can do it in 2 because the Necromancer is one of the most powerful characters in the game. You can have an army with you.
Do you ever remember a game named Rift?
Yes, absolutely.
Now, when I was playing, I was in one of the top guilds, and they dragged me along because I didn't make mistakes. I wasn't the top DPS by any means. We had one of the highest in the game who was in our guild. And I played, for the most part, just a DPS mage. You know how you could shift from different ones? You could be a healer, you could do this or that, and it was almost flawless how you could change real instantly. Well, we were doing one of the dungeons. We were the first ones in it, and we were the first ones to beat this one dungeon. And we had that DPS guy and several other people try. The idea was you had to open these books one at a time. There's 4 books, and one person had to do it while everyone else was DPSing all the spawn that would come. And if you didn't do it that way, you'd be overwhelmed. Well, at one point I said, let me do it with my necro. And they're all going, you can't do that. Our team was the first one to beat that level because I had a necro, I had a zombie going up, taking on all the guys that were trying to get the books while I sat there and ran around and opened up the books. I've always loved necros because of the toys you could throw out. So I'm going to have to do it. Diablo 2. All right.
So there used to be a place called Velocities, this is pre-internet gaming. Like, I'm not talking about console gaming. Okay. Mm-hmm. So this is like OG Xbox time. Before there was like Xbox Live. This is pre-Xbox Live. They had 8 60-inch big screens. These are projection big screens. These are the TVs that used to cost like $10,000 a piece back in the day.
Yeah.
So they had 8 of those. They had 4 on one wall, 4 on the other wall. And I started to go to competitions in Houston. I drive over there and we do multiplayer competitions. Eventually I joined this group called the 7th Column. It's one of the very first Halo guilds that there ever were. And we rented out the whole place. We rented out all the TVs for the whole day, which, God help me, I can't remember how much it was, but it was a lot of money because you rented these out by the hour. And we were doing all kinds of crazy multiplayer stuff. And this guy came up with this idea, well, what if we do like a 7-on-1 type scenario? And I was like, okay, if we're going to do this, then we're going to do it. And it was the figure 8 map. So there was a small figure 8 map. And I said, you have to stay away from super shields and invisibility. And the one who's all by themselves can get it, but you can't because there's 7 of you and one of me.
Mm-hmm.
They were like rats in a cage. It was like the predator hunting. It's like the predator hunting its prey in the Predator movies.
Mm-hmm.
So it was crazy. What I did was I stayed up top, and if you do the figure 8 and you time it just right, by the time you get the invisibility and the super shield, you can do your killing as you're going around the map and get back to the other invisibility and the super shield. So you're literally doing this like figure 8 circle, collecting both back to back and killing while you're running. So you can collect your grenades, because there's grenades on both sides. So as you're doing the figure 8, they've got the frag grenades and they got the plasma grenades. So as long as you continue to make that figure 8, there's really nothing they can do. And you're doing 7-on-1. And that was probably the best run of Halo I ever did in a versus situation. Chief Petty Officer Loki. But yeah, it's crazy. I loved it. And we're getting out of here, guys. You spent an hour here. Make sure you come back next week for chapter 3 of that. If we are back next week, it all depends.
Right.
But if we are, we'll do chapter 3 until we are finished. So, guys, thank you for being here. We will see you when we see you guys. Take care. Be excellent to each other. Always speak, friend, enter. We'll see you tomorrow morning for the weekend review with the Lady and the Rooster and Loki. Have a great one, everybody.
See ya.
These videos are tremendous. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hammer that notification bell.